Welcome back, everyone, to The Horror Returns. I'm Lance. With me, as always, we have our co-host Philip and Brian, and also our co-host Pedro. What's up, man?
Oh man, I'm just happy to be here once again.
Yeah, dude. So look, Norelden is here with us tonight. Our patron, our friend to the end. What's up, Norelden?
Nothing much, y'all. I'm happy to be here again and talk about some good films with y'all today.
We understand you and Pedro go way back, man.
Yeah. I mean, I had another podcast called the Fabulous Lucha Brothers, and I mean that's kind of where I met you, right, Neraldin? And then we had a Vegas get together about 2 years ago.
It was a whole lifetime ago, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. A lot has changed. And so that's where I first met you in person. Like Norelden was one of those guys that was like, I think you just surprised us, right? You didn't tell us you were gonna show up, and so he shows up there, and we're already all drunk and high and whatever else, and so he shows up there wearing the Faces of Death shirt, which made us all mark out. You know, we all pop for that. But yeah, it's just there's a wrestling connection, and I'm just happy that you found these guys as well, because these guys are also family. You know, the Horror Returns crew. And so here you are, you know, supporting the show.
It's true. Yeah, thank you for that introduction. Yeah, it was like it was a great experience. I think he was sharing a little bit. It was kind of like I told myself I'm gonna do it. It was a once in a life. Dude, some shit just fell. It was a ghost. The ghost in the house is like, what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, I told myself I'm gonna go just live life. You know, it's something I wanted to do, and was able to make it to Vegas, have a great time, meet a whole bunch of dope folks, and here I am now again, Patreon patron, fully supported, got the pop promotion and the t-shirt, y'all. If y'all are considering joining being a patron, definitely recommend it, because there's some perks and you get to chalk it up with a whole bunch of dope folks.
Nice. The only thing that we Mandela affected was the shot glasses. Those are not included. Somehow we just created out of thin air, but those are not included in the package.
Man, it's funny you should say that. I ended up with this glass, Pedro, but I almost pivoted to my beer glass that we got from what was it, Lollapalooza?
Oh yeah.
6 years ago, 7, 8. When was it?
Oh man, I've had adventures with all you guys, man.
It's been a while. All right, cool. So, Norelden, walk us through this, dude. What are we going to be watching tonight, or what are we going to be talking about?
So tonight we got 3 films in store to talk about. We got Savageland, we got Tales from the Hood, and we got Nightingale. So I feel like all of these 3 films, there's like a running theme between all of them in terms of like different types of thematic topics, such as like colonialism, racial tension in the United States. And that was completely unintentional. And
it works.
I'm glad it worked out. And it'd be like that sometimes.
I was gonna say, Neraldin, because we also have another connection in that we're both in the mental health world. You know, I know Neraldin is in the early stages of his career, and so I was like, there's the commonalities in these films. You know, there's a lot of like cultural aspects to it. You know, a lot of like oppression, discrimination, a lot of stuff that we deal with in our related field. But then you're just saying it was just a coincidence. So I'm gonna take the kudos away. No, I'm just kidding.
All right. Well, we're gonna. I guess the question tonight is not like what's everybody's cool of the week. The question is, are we gonna have 5 people that all have the same cool of the week this week, right?
Probably.
Norelden, have you checked it out yet? You know what I'm talking about.
Oh man, we're talking about Cobra Kai? Nah, that's the only thing that I saw this week. I think I'm on a different page than y'all.
All right, I could go first, because that is my cool of the week. I've been a little busy, so I haven't been able to see a lot, but I saw both the aforementioned Cobra Kai and also saw Deadpool and Wolverine, which was
There you go.
It's interesting. That's a very, very interesting film. Because I loved it. First of all, I had a lot of fun with it. It was a little too inside if I want to put my critic hat on. Okay. But It's the same thing that I said in my review of a Spider-Man. Was it No Way Home? Yeah, the one with the multiverse one. Where, I said back then what I'm gonna say now is that once that high goes away from all the cameos and all the inside jokes and all that, what's left is not very much, right? There's not very much story, especially in Deadpool and Wolverine. There's not a lot of story.
Okay.
I mean, I'm gonna avoid all spoilers just because a lot of people still haven't seen it. And so I do wonder how history is gonna treat this film. You know, is it a film that is it gonna have a lot of rewatchability value? Where is it gonna land once we get Avengers 5 and 6 going? Because Marvel's been in the news quite a bit. We'll get into that too, like, you know, with the whole Doctor Doom announcement, which I have mixed feelings about that. You know, so my cool of the week is definitely Deadpool and Wolverine. It was a fun movie. If you're invested like I am, because I revisit these films, I shit you not, maybe at least once a year, and I'm talking about from the beginning. Like I'm deep in it.
Even the shitty ones.
Yeah, I mean, there's, you know what, honestly, other than Phase 4, like, which are consecutive shitty, there's not a lot of shitty ones in the early years.
That's true.
So those are easier to get through, but
except that one Thor movie. That one
yeah, the Thor: The Dark World, and then what's the other shitty one? I mean, some people say Iron Man 3. I don't agree. I like Shane Black's whole thing there with the buddy cop thing. But this one in particular, yeah, I'm more interested how history is gonna treat it in the future, where it's like, yeah, because once you get past, you know, to use a wrestling term, once you get past the high spots, like what is it? There's not much left, you know. So that's my cool of the week. One of the things that I love to see that was awesome was that it was back to that concert atmosphere that we hadn't seen in a film for a long time. I went to the whole midnight thing, you know, the whole first day, the nerd shit. So it was nice to see. It was nice to see that atmosphere again, because we hadn't seen. Last time I saw that was probably for No Way Home. That was probably the last time. And just the way films have been going the last few years, where, you know, people are saying that cinema's dead and all that. It was nice to see that there's still films that could bring it up, at least for a weekend, you know. So I really enjoyed that movie. What do you guys think of it?
I'll jump in. Yeah, I loved it. Everybody's talking about it was fan service. Hell yeah, it was fucking fan service. It was all the shit that we were asking for that we didn't get. I loved all the cameos. I do see your point, Pedro, about once the surprise of all the cameos and all that wears off, I could see it not being as good, but man, was it a fun fucking ride the first time.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple cameos in there that I was like, what? I can't believe they got this person. You know, I was like, what the fuck? Like a couple, and you know, it was fun. It was fun. Everything, and it was like one of the differences though between the Spider-Man movie and this one is that there was so many jokes in this one that there's no way we caught them all. You do actually have to watch it again. Yeah. Because it was like one after another, like just bam, 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 bam. And so there was a lot of little things that we probably missed in the first viewing that we have to check it out again.
See, and that's why I think it does have rewatchability, because it's more of a comedy, which is kind of what Deadpool is. And dude, I'll watch comedy movies over and over and over and over and over again. If it's something super serious with a real drawn out plot, I may watch it once or twice, but it's not something I'm going to revisit every time. This one I definitely will. I loved it.
Yeah. And I wanted to say one more thing, because there is this whole thing about the fan service thing. And you know, to me, Marvel is desperate. I mean, they brought back Robert Downey Jr. for Doctor Doom. This one was very fan servicey. The new Captain America is essentially going to be a remake of The Winter Soldier. You could already see it. And so, but to me, so you have people complaining about that. But what's the opposite? The opposite is for these producers to just hold on to their heels and be like, we're just going to do it our way. So we're going to get what Disney's doing. I mean, what Disney's doing, right? With Star Wars, right? It's like Star Wars is the opposite of this. Star Wars is more like, no, this is what we want, and you guys are going to like eat it up whether you want to or not, you know? Yeah. So to me, it's like, well, at least Marvel's recognizing, as we saw in Deadpool and Wolverine, because there's a lot of throwaway lines about how they fucked up the last couple of phases. And so I think they're recognizing it. I think in their mind, they're giving the fans what they want. And that is going to be fan servicey. But right now they're in survival mode. And I agree with their strategy. You know, give us a little bit of what we want to get us back in, and then start kind of experimenting again. But for right now,
Okay.
For better or worse, you have to go back to the roots. I mean,
Yeah.
that, and that's what they're doing, and I don't blame them for it.
Yeah, that's
Jesus.
that's what I really loved about their whole Comic-Con panel, because it wasn't like hitting you with, we're gonna do this, mapped out till the next 10 years. I think they showcased 3 or 4 movies that they're gonna do over the next 4 years. And
yeah,
I think they're gonna concentrate more on what's next, what's the next direct thing, instead of what's gonna be 10 years from now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It was a little concerning that there was absolutely no talk about Blade. I mean, there's people predicting.
Oh no.
He talked about it. Kevin Feige talked about it a little bit. He just said, we're not going to rush it. We're not going to
rush it.
I mean, that's the very definition. I mean, it's 5 years. 5 years ago, they announced this fucking movie. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Motherfuckers still be trying to ice skate uphill.
Yes.
Yeah, there were so many moments in this movie where I was just like laughing out loud, or like actually making audible noises in the movie theater, and everybody was totally digging it, man. It was pretty great. And I do love that he was digging at Marvel the whole time that he was doing it. He's like, nah, this is so he's Marvel Jesus. So he's gonna save the franchise, hopefully.
Not to spoil anything, but he also threw a shot at DC.
Yeah.
When a certain cameo, a certain variant Wolverine cameo showed up.
Right.
Don't want to spoil it, but
That
he was like, yeah, the guys that treated you shitty down the street.
Oh. Yeah, that was. I loved what they did at the beginning. The way that they twisted it in the middle, and then that last scene where a lot of cameos are that if you go and look at the cast, you may not actually recognize them because they're all in costume and stuff. But if you go look at the cast, there's a lot of cameos in there that you wouldn't expect at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the comedy aspect of it. I like the fan service. Like Pedro said, 2, 3, 4 viewings down the road, we may think differently about it, but it seemed like it was just what we needed. And my acid test was that I brought the wife with me, and AJ was just over there rolling her eyes, groaning, like shaking her head like this. She's like, he's so filthy. He's so filthy. That's Deadpool. Yeah. Well, yeah, but so was Wolverine. He was an asshole too. I said, Wolverine is an asshole. Yeah. He's not the nicest guy. He's a really grouchy dude. So yeah, I loved all the shout out to classic Marvel covers, like the Field of Skulls, Pedro, where Wolverine was up on the X.
Yeah,
that was nice.
You got a whole bunch of Deadpool covers. Yeah, it was what we needed. Nerelden, you got something different, right? Cobra Kai, is that your thing or what?
Yeah, this is true. That's what I checked out this week. I've just been living life, and I've just been trying to catch up on the things that I can. And yeah, I've been really enjoying this Cobra Kai season. I think the writing has been really, really good compared to some of the previous seasons. I think like season 4, season 3, I was kind of like, oh man, I wasn't really into it. But I think this season, really, really good, kind of solid writing that kind of captivated me. I'm like, oh man, there's some real shit going on. I think the language too is a little bit more like adult, right?
More realistic.
And exactly. And I just couldn't help but laugh because like these fools are just growing up. There's some like grown ass dudes now. Like
I know.
We got wow, what's his face? The Blue Beetle, right? He's a whole he's got a whole different life now. And so I kind of seeing them like grow as actors and seeing like those images kind of cross-pollinate with where they started in Cobra Kai was really nice. But I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, it's a little comical because all these quote unquote kids, they're all almost 30 now, that's what happens when you do these kind of shows. But in the show timeline, they're just about to graduate high school. And
with gray hair.
But Nerelden, I do disagree with you in the sense that like the Martin Kreese character, like where it ended last season, and then that's a pretty big moment. Like last season, he just randomly escapes prison, right? This guy is 75 years old, and he throws a chop here and there, and he's out. He just walks out of prison. And you know, I am gonna spoil it here. Cobra Kai's been out for a while, a couple of weeks, I think 3 weeks already, or maybe even almost a month. So I will say this: in this season, he's just walking around like willy nilly, and I'm like, don't you have like the?
Hey, bro, let's be fair. He's barely walking around.
And that's the thing, like. I think they write for his character to be way younger than he is as Martin Kove is old. So he walks like you know, I don't know if you guys have been to wrestling conventions when you see these older wrestlers, the way they walk because they're all beat up. That's how he walks, and they can't fake that. They can't CGI him walking normal. So
that was like his the first scene in this new season when you see him, he's like walking out of the shadows, and while he's walking, I'm just like, whoa, be careful, be careful.
So I think with Cobra Kai, one of the things we have to accept, which is hard for me sometimes because I'm such a fucking snob when it comes to this shit. Right. We have to accept that somewhere along the line, this show went from a drama concerning the character of Johnny, and then it turned into a complete cartoon. And we have to accept that. Like, if we accept that, then we're gonna have a good time with it, right? Because
fair enough.
This season is complete cartoon now. Like, and it's been building up to that. Like, you have fucking kids just knowing karate after like one lesson. Like, they know how to do like the Ken and Ryu fucking helicopter kick. They just bust it out. So as long as we accept that it's become somewhat lowbrow, you know, cartoon, then I'm okay with it because it's a fun show. You know, they do have a couple very to me they're captivating storylines. One of them is exploring Mr. Miyagi's past. Right? They found the box. And I think that's going to be connected to the movie next summer with Jackie Chan coming in and all that. And then also just the tournament and how that's going to make Daniel LaRusso, because it seems like they're building him for him to be a little more aggressive than he has been, you know? So those two things are pretty good. Another thing that I didn't like, and Noralden, I don't know if you agree with me or not, like, some of the little conflict with the kids, it came off a little privileged to me. Like Hawk and is it Dimitri, his friend, the nerdy guy? Like, they're talking about they're all butthurt because they're not going to the same college and university. And I'm like, yo, I grew up in the streets. Like, we don't have like that's a very privileged storyline, you know? Like, what the fuck?
Sure.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with community college.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with community college or getting a job after high school or getting a trade, you know, like a blue collar work. And over here, they're all mad and they're all pissy, you know. I didn't like that because I don't relate to that. So that was the disconnect for me.
Yeah, that whole you out of everybody got into MIT.
Yeah,
MIT.
Exactly.
Jesus Christ.
And then you have the Johnny storyline where it's like he wants to buy a home for his family. You know, again, like his chick is pregnant, and I'm like, how old are these people? Aren't they like in their 50s and their 60s at this point? But whatever.
Well, modern medicine.
And then I'm thinking, like, Johnny makes no money. Like his dojo's free, and like he's over here. I mean, now he's a car salesman, right? He's trying to pick up his job and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, again, I'm not gonna take it that seriously. I'm just having fun with it. And yeah, it left off on a good cliffhanger.
All right.
With the whole Tory thing, you know.
Well, one thing I can tell you this week, I'll bet you Brian does have some horror headlines for us after the SDCC that just happened. What you got for us, Brian?
Let me pull up stuff on my phone here. Got another.
Is that your source?
We got another horror movie coming from A24, this time starring Kyle MacLachlan, titled Alter.
Okay.
Wasn't that one of the Netflix movies that got really popular? There's a movie called Alter on Netflix that's really good. Or where they go into the woods and then they have all those hallucinations. Is that Alter? Anyways, I'm probably tripping. It's probably not the name of the movie.
Yeah, I'm trying to think because for some reason I think there's a bunch of horror movies titled Alter.
Yeah. And you guys know why they do that, right? There's a strategy behind that because in the world that we live in now, when everything's on streaming, Alter starts with an A. So it's going to be the first title that pops up.
Okay.
So a lot of these producers, they think about shit like that now.
I get that.
Let's see here. Now, according to Collider.com, somebody going to ask, where's my source come from?
There you go.
28 years later, has reportedly wrapped production. Now they are filming a trilogy, so I think they're filming a couple of these back to back. But the first movie has wrapped filming.
Good, good. We should start keeping tabs on how many films get announced, get into production, and come out before Blade comes out. That'll be a pretty fun game.
Oh no, there'll be a lot. There'll be a lot.
Because I mean, 28 years later just got announced like a year ago, and it's already done. So people are working, and it's like here we are with Blade. Marshall Ali or whatever his name is, he's gonna be 50 by the time they start production on this thing. So it's getting a little ridiculous here.
Let's see, Cocaine Bear 2 is currently in development with Elizabeth Banks in talks to return to direct.
Of course.
I hate it. I mean, I didn't hate it when I first watched it, but in repeat viewings, I don't like that movie at all.
It ain't great. It's not a masterpiece, that's for sure.
What is a masterpiece, Lance?
It's a piece of something.
Night Swim is a masterpiece for Lance.
In its own right, yes.
How are they going to come up with this scenario again? Or is it the same bear?
Bear lives forever.
Yeah.
See, kids.
Maybe the bear. No, I got it. The bear had cubs, and then
that's right. There were cubs.
He had crack babies.
Cocaine cubs.
Oh no! I think Brian just nailed it.
All right, Scream 7 will reportedly start filming in December.
Okay, well, good luck on that. They have a lot of explaining to do. What happens to the two main characters that are suddenly not there anymore?
I'm gonna say they're gonna mention them not by name in like a passing comment.
Okay.
I still think it was all a plan to get Neve Campbell back.
I guess it worked, right?
But why would the other two have to leave for that?
Yeah, well, to clear up money.
Oh,
because she wanted money.
Yeah, they did roll back the bank truck for her.
Yeah, you fire one and another one leaves because the other one got fired. Bam, you got the money Neve Campbell was asking for.
There you go. Okay.
Let's see. You guys fan of Dexter?
Not really, but I know about the show, of course.
Yeah, this is the second sequel series to come out, because we talked about the prequel series, Dexter Original Sin. Well, just over the weekend, Dexter Resurrection with Michael C. Hall has been announced.
Okay.
Makes me not want to catch up with the series, because you're just kind of telling me all the stuff that happens.
So I thought, but wasn't this one gonna be a prequel, like showing how he kind of became how he became, or something like that?
That's Original Sin.
Yes. Wow. How many of these do they got?
Original Sin. Christian Slater is gonna play a younger version of his dad.
Wow.
This is Walking Dead territory right here now.
That's right. That's right. The new franchise, right?
All these different spin-offs.
So I'm glad you brought that up, Pedro. Daryl Dixon, or whatever it's called, is getting a third season ahead of the second one before it even comes out, and I think they're going to Spain.
Oh my God!
Spain, yeah. Okay.
This show has gotten so like absurd. Like I saw the trailer because they premiere a trailer at Comic-Con, and talk about lazy writing. Like, and I don't know what happens, but there is a scene in the trailer where Carol magically finds a helicopter, and or is it a plane? One or the other.
It's a vertical takeoff and landing plane. How about that?
And I think that's how they go to Europe on a helicopter.
Jesus Christ.
Because one of them, I don't know if it's the second season, Brian, or the third season. One of them is entitled "The Book of Carol," which is fucking stupid.
Right.
I was just about to bring up how absurd that sounds. It's The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, The Book of Carol. That's the title for season 2.
All right.
Yes. Not the Book of Boba Fett, the Book of Carol. No.
That's right.
But in the trailer they just find an airplane or a helicopter. My brain can't find what.
Sure.
But
they found a Concorde, right?
But either way, a helicopter is not going to take you to Europe. I don't care how much fucking gas is in that thing. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe it's a solar-powered helicopter, dude. Come on.
But it is better then how Daryl Dixon got to Europe, where he literally passed out on a boat and crash landed in France.
Drunk.
How long was he passed out?
They never explained that. That's how the show starts. He's passed out, he's groggy, and he's in France.
Like Dracula. It's like Dracula all over again.
Maybe he was in the last voyage of the Demeter or something.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
That's how I got to France. Yeah, this is getting absurd.
All right. Let's see. I think this is another movie that's been in development. Todd McFarlane had announced he was rebooting Spawn and he was going to direct.
Oh, yeah, sure. 10 years ago, I think we heard
everything changed. The movie is now titled King Spawn, off of one of the comic book series. He will not direct, and the script is now finished. So they're searching for a director, which that kind of makes me a little bit more interested in the movie, because I didn't like the fact that he was directing and he had no directing experience. Just kind of gave me Stephen King, Maximum Overdrive vibes.
As long as he's got plenty of cocaine, he's good, right?
Well, Rob Zombie did a good job with House of a Thousand Corpses, but that was about it. Well, the Devil's Reject is also really good.
Yeah.
Any of you guys played BioShock video game?
No.
Actually haven't.
Sounds familiar.
I know of it, but yeah.
Yeah, it was supposed to get a movie at Netflix, and they just recently came out, said the movie is still in development, but they're going with a smaller budget.
Okay.
It seemed like it could have been cool, because BioShock, I'm pretty sure, has a pretty cool story.
Right.
What was that?
Netflix and small budget don't seem to go together very often, do they?
Maybe they're learning, though. You have to control these budgets.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, Lance, if they would have went with a big budget for Biohazard, they would have upped our Netflix bill again.
I know. They just stuck the rock in there or something.
You already know I'm paying $25 a month for that shit. That's the last thing I need is to be paying $30 a month for it.
I canceled mine. There's just nothing on there that I want to watch.
Yeah, that's true. And we won't get another House of Usher because he went to Prime, right? So
yeah, which I wasn't going to put that in news, but there was a news thing saying that Amazon and Mike Flanagan talk weekly about a Dark Tower movie or possibly series.
Weekly? What are the talk
teasing?
Weekly?
Teasing.
Be cool.
People have been trying to get off the ground for years as well. That's another one,
Yeah,
I mean, they got that shitty movie out, but other than that,
yeah. But with Flanagan behind the wheel doing a series, I think they could totally pull it off.
Yeah, they just got to keep every season to one book. If they try to fuck it up and they try to do well, look what House of the Dragon. You guys watch House of the Dragon at all? Like the
that was another one of my quote of the week. Yes, I am watching.
Yeah, yeah, but they're really sucking it for all it's worth, Pedro, dude. They're only like 20% of the fucking book. How many? Were they going to go 10 seasons just on one book or something?
Okay,
crazy.
but I thought they were only adapting one story from that book, because that book is huge.
Is that what it is? Okay. Well, yeah, because it's like 100 years of history, basically.
Yeah. So they're only adapting one particular that saga that we're seeing play out. They're only
that makes sense. That makes sense.
And the second season has been really good, by the way, for the folks that haven't seen it. I would encourage you to see the second season. The first season is also good, but the second season is just I like how we're focusing on one story.
Yes.
Right? And like with Game of Thrones, it has you all over the place, with all these different wide range of characters. Whereas here, there's a lot of characters, but it's just one story.
I'm adding that. I'm adding that to our Cool of the Week list, Pedro.
How many episodes do they have left?
One. The season finale is this coming week.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, then in that case, I may check it out, because we got through the first episode, but I don't like the weekly format.
Yeah, we've seen two, so we got a long way to go.
All right, a few more things here. Lance, your favorite slasher movie of all time is getting an official sequel. And Violent Nature 2 is in development.
Is that what they're going to call it?
In a Violent Nature 2, or He Who Walks Through the Woods on Grass for an Hour?
He who rocks among the what is it? He who rocks among the rows, or I ordered that T-shirt, by the way.
You know what they should do to keep with tradition? You know how the Friday the 13th, the sequels would always start with like a 5 to 10 minute recap of the previous movie
Oh,
to just
of course,
pat the clock. They need to start this movie with the old lady in the truck and her monologue once again. That should be the first thing in the fucking movie.
The whole first 30 minutes.
Started from the end or replay the entire
beginning,
Oh,
very beginning.
God. And we'll finish off here with Lance. Have you read Stephen King's The Long Walk?
Yes, love it.
He did it under a different name, right?
Yeah, Richard Bachman. That was like one of his first Bachman books.
Now, from what I understand, this was a movie that they've been trying to make for years. And lately, it's full steam ahead. They got the cast. I think they started production. And they just added Mark Hamill and Judy Greer to the cast.
That's good casting. Yeah, if Mark Hamill plays the character, I think he's going to play. It's like in the not too distant future, right? Where they randomly pick young men from different families to try to walk to compete, so they have enough money for their family to live.
Oh, I see.
This came out way before the Hunger Games and all that shit.
And so from what I understand, they have to walk a certain speed. They can't go under the certain speed.
Yes, they're monitored
killed immediately.
Yep, they'll just take out an Uzi and blow them away. But if Mark Hamill plays the character, I think his name is the Colonel, the military guy that kind of like pushes them on, and like is kind of like in one sense he's like trying to help them finish, but in the other sense he's got some not so nice things that he likes to do to the kids. Nothing sexual.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to give too much away, but it's
trying
to
dance around that fact.
No, it's a brutal story, dude. Like I had tears coming a couple of times because it's just. Can you imagine like being that young and having to literally fucking walk across the country, like with no rest stops or anything like that? And like you say, you've got to keep within a certain speed. So it's if they do it the right way and stick to landing with a book, I think Mark Hamill would be perfect for that role.
Trying to look up who the director is.
They need to hire the Cobra Kai cast to the 30-year-olds to play.
Yeah, that's right. 30-year-old teenagers.
This is directed by Francis Lawrence, who's worked on Constantine, I Am Legend, The Hunger Games.
There you go.
All right, this is due out. It's to be announced title, but it looks like next year.
All right.
In the theaters. This is a theater movie.
So before Blade, okay, remember we're keeping tabs on this.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
And Salem's Lot, that's another one that never came out.
Oh no, I forgot all
that one. That one got announced earlier. They're gonna put it on Max, and they said it'll be on before the end of the year.
Okay.
We'll believe it when we see it, right, Pedro?
Well, it's been TBA for about 2-3 years now, so
sure.
It's done, filmed.
Yeah, that's one of the ones that says
Just
I know that for a while people were worried because they thought that was going to be another tax write-off for Max, but they seem they're going to put it out.
We shall see.
Yeah. How does that work? You spend.
I don't know. I'm not a multi-million-dollar producer. I wouldn't be able to.
Yeah.
Like that girl, they spent like $80 to $100 million on it. Shelved it, said it will never come out due to tax reasons, and they saved money. I don't understand.
I don't get it.
Maybe they have to pay less taxes,
I guess, but seems weird.
That one and the Wile E. Coyote movie, they also did that with that one as well.
Yeah.
And that one had John Cena in it, which is a tragedy.
Okay.
What?
Oh, you're not fucking with us?
It was like a live action. The movies where they mix cartoon and live action.
It was like Space Jam, but with Wile E. Coyote.
Space Jam was pretty good. I like the new Space Jam. It's fun.
What?
I heard positive things about that.
I know. Last week I said I'd never do this, but Lance, Space Jam 1 and 2 are shitty. Both of them.
Yeah, but at least
that should have been a tax write-off.
Phil, I never liked that movie. Even as a kid, it just seemed stupid to me. I wanted more Bill Murray than Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan is not the best actor in the world.
Yeah, looking back on that.
Next time people watch that movie, next time people watch Space Jam, I don't know why the fuck anybody would want to watch Space Jam, but if you do, look at the way they work around Michael Jordan. He never in the entire movie, he never has more than 2 or 3 lines of dialogue, and like they never allow him to go into a soliloquy or nothing like that. It's just they protect him because they know he sucked. And they have actors around him the entire time to carry the load of the film. It's a trip when you watch it.
Yeah.
All right.
Pedro, you used to go home from school singing "I Believe I Can Fly" all the time. Come on.
Oh, that was a horrible movie.
All right. Norelden, you ready to go down to the trailer park with us?
Yes, indeed. Let's take that trip.
All right. Brian is going to bring us the big, the small, and sometimes the very, very weird. What's our first new trailer this week, Brian?
Well, we got a bunch of teasers this week.
Okay.
And the first one is Hell House LLC Lineage, which I'm pulling up the IMDb. There is nothing on here. No plot, no actors.
Oh, wow.
I'm assuming the same team that did the previous ones.
Right.
So, anybody excited to go back to Hell House again?
Yeah, we love these movies. We love these movies.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what else you could say. I think Origins pretty much closed the book on it. I mean, it's
right.
And then the middle two were not that good. I mean, to me, the one that everybody talks about is the first one, right? That's the one, the quote unquote cult classic.
Yeah,
and
then,
sure. And then 2's really bad. 3's decent, and then Origins is pretty good. So I don't know.
It's really bad.
Yeah. It is. Yeah, it was horrible. And but 3 and 4 are not that bad. I mean, they're watchable. And then so we'll see what's up with this one. But at this point, you could tell because the guy that created this entire franchise, he's in the movie. I think he's a director and he's one of the stars. So I don't know, man. These guys they latch onto these franchises, these IPs, and then they just milk them for all they're worth, you know, because it's money. And we might be there at this point, you know. We might be at the point where it's like I don't give a fuck. It's just another paycheck for me. Let's go ahead and put another one out.
Yeah. I think his name is Stephen Cognetti. Didn't we interview him?
Yes. Oh yeah. We interviewed him and also some from the next trailer you're going to talk about.
Yeah. So I guess there's nothing really to say. It's a teaser with kind of looks like it was filmed in my neck of the woods, most of it, with all the snow.
Oh, the Canadian Hell House. I can't wait.
And we
Alaskan. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know who you're talking about.
Canadian.
And we get the shot of the manor. And I'm assuming Lineage, it's probably going to be another prequel-esque.
Makes sense. Yeah, makes sense.
I think those are always the best when you like go so far back where you can kind of create your own type of story. Yeah, like what they did with motherfucking Annabelle, right?
Okay.
Like the good one. You go so far back.
Sure.
You got a free canvas to kind of work your magic. So hopefully there's some magic to be created because
I like when you're talking about that Annabelle, that second Annabelle, you said the good one because that is the good and the only good one.
Yeah.
And they were still nice enough to kind of tie it into the bad one. They were like, here you go.
Yeah, right.
I'm still wondering how they're gonna close off. They're saying they're gonna close off that Conjuring universe with the next one, but I'm like, what is there to close off? Like
that's what they say.
You gotta kill Ed and Lorraine.
Oh no, are they still alive in real life?
Well, one of Ed passed away. Rest in peace.
I think they both have at this point.
Okay.
I don't think Lorraine is around anymore either.
It's always the guy who goes first, right?
And by the way, for the people that have never seen the real Ed, the complete opposite of Patrick Wilson. As you know, he's not as alpha looking as Patrick Wilson. Let's just put it that way.
They did the Richie Valens gimmick.
Oh yeah, they did. That's right.
There you go.
All right, Hell House LLC Lineage. I think this is getting the same release as the previous one on Shudder.
Okay.
So that one's due.
They all go to Shudder.
Now keep track, Pedro. This one's due 2025.
Okay.
All right. Latest also due 2025. Let's not forget that.
Allegedly.
All right. On to our next teaser. Like Lance said, we interviewed somebody from this movie. Friend of the show, David Howard Thornton, Art the Clown, Terrifier 3. What'd you guys think?
I mean,
More
that
of
was
the
another
same.
teaser. Yeah, more of the same.
Yeah, more of the same.
You know, I'm sure they're gonna ramp up the gore because that's what made part 2 kind of blow up. You know, and I don't know. Sometimes I worry with these films because both of them, the filmmaker and Art the Clown, they've gotten so much positive press, right, from this film because it was a phenomenon. Let's be real. I mean, it was a small film that got a theatrical, which is rare, and it just made a shitload of money. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I think these guys could get a little full of themselves when that happens, just because they're getting all that positive.
Yes.
And so a lot of times the sequels end up kind of just being so overblown, you know, and I'm worried about that. I mean, I'm gonna see this runtime. If I see like 3 hours and 2 minutes of fucking runtime, I'm gonna be worried because the second one, the second one is 2.5 hours, Lance.
I know, but I think you said something about this one won't be more than an hour and a half. I think.
Okay,
I think Leon said that.
Because when they ask him, like, there's no excuse for any slasher film. I don't give a fuck. There's no excuse for a 2.5 hour epic to be 2.5 film. Mm-hmm. And then they asked him, why is it 2.5 hours? And he was like, well, I couldn't cut anything because everything's so important in that film. And I'm like, oh shit, here we go. So I'm looking at that runtime for part 3, and if it's over 2.5, I ain't going. I'm gonna stream that shit.
Well, they got some people added to the cast here. Jason Patrick, Daniel Roebuck. I believe Clint Howard is in this movie. The Learning Tree, Chris Jericho is returning.
That's one of his boys, so I knew he would be in it.
And it looks like whoever lived in the previous movie.
Whoever lived. Returning. Okay. If they live, they're back, huh?
Which I'm happy. What's her name? Lauren LeBaron, the final girl from the second one. I thought she was badass.
Everybody's happy to see her again. That's for sure.
Yes, yeah, and I'm surprised she hasn't gotten more work. Like, I don't know, she needs to fire her agent because she came out hot coming out of that film. And
I agree with you. And she does her own stunts and is like a black belt in martial arts.
Yeah, I think she has a Hallmark. I think she has a Hallmark Christmas movie coming out, Brian. Speaking of which,
then she definitely needs to fire her agent.
Hold on. Speaking of which, I was editing and listening to an episode we did from about a year ago, Brian, and you committed to something that you never followed through on, brother.
Yeah, and how dare you message me 5 a.m. about some Christmas shit?
All right, man. Not the whole.
I was gonna say that's one thing about Lance, man. You get texts from him at all hours of the night. I've gotten them too. Now I don't mind it, mind you. I love you, Lance. So you can message me whenever you want. But I don't know, brother. Sometimes I'm like, when the hell does this guy sleep? Because you'll get them at 2 a.m, at 5 a.m, at 10 p.m.
You never know. You never know.
Yeah,
right?
You never know.
Yeah, I hear my
anyway. I just leave that shit on vibrate.
I hear my phone go off. And I know it's Messenger, and I'm like, I know it's Lance.
Yeah.
So I answer it because it's 5 a.m. It might be important.
Sure.
And I just see it's about Christmas, and I don't even answer.
Well, look, dude, you don't have to do the 31 days, but you promised me 12 days of Christmas last year.
All right, I will do the 12 days of Christmas, and I'll even make it. I'll make half of them. I won't do all horror. I'll just do half of them.
Well, don't overcommit now. Hold on.
you got to get some Hallmark movies in there.
I was going to say, Brian may go down the path he doesn't want to go down.
I'll watch the Hallmark Christmas movie with Bruce Campbell in it.
There you go.
I didn't know he had one.
All right. Terrifier 3 is due in theaters October 11th.
All right.
Well, at least they got the month right, which is a lot of these horror movies don't really do that anymore. So it's gonna make money for sure. It's got that built-in following already, and I'm sure it wasn't it didn't cost much to make it, so it's definitely gonna make a profit.
Now I heard that before we go into listener feedback, I heard that he's got a effects crew working on the film. Do you think that's gonna hurt it since he did all the effects for the first two himself?
It can, yeah. I mean, if he's supervising, I mean, that's one thing. But if he's gonna let them do it, then we could see a difference for sure.
I mean, as long as they're practicals,
True.
how bad can it be?
True.
That's probably
and also this is his chance to this is his chance to really build that mythology of Art the Clown and really kind of put some like something that makes sense, because for better or worse, like the first two films, they're kind of out there as far as what's really happening, you know, and we really haven't had this defined mythology established for Art the Clown yet. So like I think back to like the guy that's doing the Winnie the Pooh movies. Like the second one, he tried. I mean, he actually tried to make sense of this, and there was even like that new twist in the second one where like the humans were like, you know, integrated with the animals, and that's why we. So at least he tried.
Island of Dr. Moreau.
Exactly, kind of like that. So at least he tried to make some semblance of a mythology, but so hopefully this guy from Terrifier does the same thing. This is his chance to do that.
All right, listener feedback.
This week we shine the podcast spotlight on Watch If You Dare. Watch If You Dare is a podcast exploring horror cinema through the eyes of a coward and the eyes of a longtime fan.
Wait a minute, the eyes of a coward, you said?
That's what it says. Each episode, Aaron, a horror movie monster boy, and his longtime friend Derek, a lover of the dark and macabre, but a spooky celluloid coward. I don't know. Watch a new movie and then attempt to put their bony fingers on why jump scares, supernatural entities, and other phobias get under our skin. Whether you're a hardened horror expert, a casual in love-hate relationship with scary cinema, or just a victim of a dare, join Derek, Aaron, and the occasional guest or two to face your fears. Watch If You Dare. That sounds fun. All right. And Brian created a poll. Who would really win between Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees? Cast your vote, leave a comment, like and follow us. So far, Freddy is ahead, but we just started the poll. Who's ahead?
I mean, it has to be Freddy, because Freddy could go into Jason's dreams and just fuck with him there. Like, he's in control. The nightmare world, Freddy's in control of that world. So Jason is powerless, as we saw in Freddy versus Jason.
Turn him into a little bald-headed boy.
Yeah, he could fuck with them. He could make his head explode, whatever he wants to do with them. Like, he could fuck with them. The only thing with Jason is that he just doesn't die. He just keeps on coming at you, like, no matter what you do to him. So the only time Jason would have the advantage is if Freddy comes to the real world and then he's powerless, like we saw in the movie. Like, that's the only time where Jason would ever have the upper hand. So just the fact that Freddy has like mythical powers, to me, makes him like he could always beat Jason. Anyways, those are my thoughts. So.
And I'm checking the poll. Jason is up by 2 votes.
Ooh, look out. Neck and neck. Go vote. Regarding Deadpool and Wolverine, David Barta says, hoping to catch this on the big screen in a week or two. I'm really looking forward to the Deadpool to be in a trilogy face-off. Okay. And regarding The Thing, Don Lowry said, it's sad with all the techniques and materials that we have today, along with the knowledge that Hollywood is too lazy and cheap to do practical effects. True. This was
it's mostly cheap, and I want to say lazy. Yeah. They're just cheap. That's what it is.
This was in 1982 and walks all over things, 40 plus years newer. And CGI is a tool, but not good enough to use for the entire effect. So it looks like I'm watching a cartoon. Rob's work here has stood the test of time and was actually scary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm always.
I was gonna say, so here's what we have to think about, and this is the reality. Like, we as fanboys or whatever, you know, we're in a bubble, right? Everything needs to be for us because we see the craftsmanship, we see the artistry of all this, but these studios are not thinking about us because they already got our money. We're gonna be there regardless, just because we're all fanboys for these things. They're thinking about the general audience. And I'll tell you what, somebody that just came out of a 12-hour shift that's trying to take their kids or their family to a movie, they could give 2 fucks about, you know, any kind of special effects or anything like that. They just want like a couple hours to escape, their daily grind, and that's the general audience. That's the majority of the people that go watch movies. So if you could save a couple bucks by just CGI-ing the whole thing, that's what they're gonna do. And from a business perspective, it makes sense, because they don't really make movies for us. They make movies for the general audience, and that's who kind of navigates the box office. So that's the reality of it, and it sucks, but we don't, as fanboys, as people that are like invested in these things, that we're in this bubble, we really don't matter, because we're always going to support it regardless.
Yeah, we're a captive audience.
Yeah, but I think even the general audience is kind of getting sick of like the full CGI movies that are just filmed on a green screen,
Right.
Yeah. I think a lot of these budgets are so overblown, and yeah, you're right, but I don't know if that's a specific complaint from them, because they're not even thinking about an option. They're not even, your casual person that goes to a movie, they're not thinking, oh wow, I wish Rob Bottin worked on this picture instead of this. They're not really thinking. They might not like the CGI because it looks like a cartoon, but they're not thinking about the other options either. So it's just shitty filmmaking is what we're getting a lot of lately. That's really what it is.
Yeah, I agree, because you don't have to go see the big blockbuster CGI fest that's out in the theaters. There's other movies out there that you can support that people don't support.
Well, sometimes we do, right?
No, we do. I'm talking about general audiences.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough.
They're so tired of the newest Marvel movie, but
the newest
making
Expendables. Brian, like the one we saw that said it was like all
correctly,
CGI?
Nobody supported that movie. That movie flopped in the box office.
All right. Let's see. Terrifier 3.
All right.
John Lisa says that clown better not be up to his old BS again, or he's going to be in a lot of trouble.
Okay. What's this, Ronald McDonald or what?
For Scream, Sissy Lemaire says, I was 10, saw it in theaters, continued to babysit. LOL.
Why not?
Yeah. In regards to Beetlejuice, Nelly Lukic says, I remember when the movie came out and was PG, and Beetlejuice says, nice fucking model. How times have changed.
Different times.
Different times. Oh, shoot.
They give him the one sometimes. Let's see. Don't Breathe 2. Don Lowry says, I didn't understand how they expected everyone to forget about a rapist with a turkey baster from the first film.
Yeah, that was kind of stupid.
I'm confused on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's make him the hero in the second one.
Hero.
No, but even back then, that was a huge criticism of that movie. I remember it vividly, so it didn't go unnoticed for sure.
Yeah. Richard Stone says, these movies are quite good, but also a little jarring. It's hard to root for a guy who was such a twisted villain in the original.
Right. There you go. We all agree.
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
That's it for listener feedback this week. Intro and logos come from Steve Carlton from The Geeks. Original skull artwork from Natsulani. And if you'd like to help us out, please consider becoming a Patreon patron, as Norelden told you. We'll let you pick the movies for a future show at any amount, and for $5 or more a month, also pay a commentary for a future bonus show. And if you join at the $5 tier and stay with us at least 3 months, you get 6 koozies, a t-shirt, and a pop figurine of our choice. Should be fun. On to featured attractions. This week, we've got the 3 films that Norelden mentioned earlier. We will start with Tales from the Hood.
Yes, the shit.
The shit.
I got the shit.
A funeral director tells 4 strange tales of horror with an African-American focus to 3 drug dealers he traps in his place of business.
Sure.
Director is Rusty Cundieff, also known for Fear of a Black Hat and Christmas in Harmony.
I have not seen Fear of a Black Hat in years.
Hallmark Christmas movie for you, Brian. Say that name again so Brian can write it down.
Christmas in Harmony.
Christmas in Harmony, Brian.
Already forgotten.
Writers are Rusty Cundieff and Darren Scott. Some of the dolls in the KKK comeuppance segment were later reused in Team America World Police. That's fun. Didn't know that.
Dicks, pussies, and assholes. Right?
Norelden, what'd you think about Tales from the Hood?
Oh, Tales from the Hood, definitely a classic. I think it still holds a lot of relevance today with the 4 different stories. Going off of the first story, right? We got the killer cop story, which is like super, super relevant during our times right now. I think we even experienced a recent kind of cop killing that has been kind of circulating on social media. And so, again, it still resonates to this day. They did a lot of good effects, and I think for the most part, that first story was very relevant. And I think there's a lot of themes in terms of like kind of this position of power that a lot of police hold, that sometimes goes unspoken in a lot of communities of color, or in like in the mainstream, right? Sometimes it's kind of we say these things, but it's not so much like picked up by the mainstream, right? By the general population. It's kind of like, oh no, we don't believe you, blah blah blah. Especially like in the 90s, right? Before the invention of like camera phones and like our phones are able to record everything, was kind of like hearsay, right? Like, oh, that doesn't really happen, that doesn't really happen. And I think when the time that this was created, it was really like this shit does happen, and they provided a platform in a fictionalized way, but it still holds a lot of relevance, right? So I really enjoyed that first story. And then the second story, I think was my favorite out of all 4 of them.
The David Allen Greer one?
Yes.
David Allen Greer as a violent. that was weird casting.
Let me interrupt you here for a second. First of all, I'm a kid of the 80s, right? And so David Allen Greer is all about in living color for me. I was not ready for this, okay?
Yeah. Neither was he. Did you see the fight for you?
No, I can't think of the actress, but I think the one that plays the she works at the school. I believe she was also in Living Color.
Oh. Yeah, she was.
Is it like one of the Wayans sisters or something?
No.
Okay. Because the Wayans, they got to get their whole family in everything they do.
I think there's 50 of them.
Yeah.
So one of this, the reason why I appreciate this story in particular is because it's a reflection of like domestic abuse that's very prevalent, and I think all over, right? The white culture, it doesn't matter. It's prevalent.
Sure.
But so this story took us out of like the oppression and the racism that we see, because the other 3 were pretty much focused on that. Well, actually 2 of the 4. So I appreciate this story for that, and just seeing how like helpless the little kid was, right? But also just creating this magical world within himself that actually became a reality. But yeah, just seeing David Allen Greer, that was weird to me, because he's always been a comedian to me. But I really like that story. Anyways, go ahead, Narendra. I'm sorry, I interrupted you there.
No worries. I think I agree with everything that you said, right? In terms of like the domestic violence that kind of is presented in this second story. I was watching it. I worked in education for like 10 years, right? So I'm a mandated reporter like by trade. And so there was so much shit that I was like, dude, why are like no fucking red flags just like popping up and like being right? But there was definitely a sense of like deep sadness, right? Really thinking about like this person that you're supposed to really care for is like a monster, right? And I think that scene, right, when the little boy is thinking like, all right, this monster is coming up, right? And you kind of see the claws opening the door, right? And it's kind of slowly creaking, and then they slowly open the door, and it's like, oh shit, it's the fucking stepdad. I remember seeing that the first time, and I was like, oh my fucking God, this is so fucking crazy. And a lot of young folks, a lot of people experience this, and I think this is kind of really impactful in terms of showing the brutality of like what it's like to live in a house with domestic violence.
Yeah, and day to day, right?
Yeah, yes. And one of the things that stood out for me that's also very common is the passive nature of the mom, right? Because usually in these situations, particularly moms, they're also a victim too. So there's this helplessness that they present sometimes, and then they have to deal with that guilt once all these things get resolved. So yeah, so this is another very, very good, very deep story as well that I enjoyed.
Definitely. And I enjoyed the what is it, the conclusion of the story, right? When he kind of crinkles up the paper and he's all contorted and twisted and everything. That was a good conclusion.
First of all, we get that from the kid that was bullying him in class. That was the tease, remember? He gets the paper.
Boy must had weak bones.
I don't know if it was a budgetary thing, they didn't want to show it, or maybe it was like an artistic, decision. But all you hear is the little kid, and then they just show him getting like dragged away, like in a gurney or whatever, you know. But that was like the first tease of like this kid has powers with these drawings, you know, and so later on it pays off with the stepdad.
This is true. Yeah, I think from there it goes on to the third story, the one about the dolls, the racist politician.
David Duke.
Yes, and
that
was
burningly veiled David Duke.
But he was hamming it up though. He was hamming it up big time, which I enjoy. You know.
Yeah.
It was kind of when I saw it the second time, I was like, oh, dude, spot on, and I think again highly relevant during our times nowadays. In terms of like kind of the implicit racism, that the institutional racism that exists within a lot of political systems, were kind of presented in this third story, right? I think I did enjoy kind of the effects of the dolls, especially like keeping in mind like this was like back in the day, before like CGI was available. All of this was like kind of practical. Yeah. I think my favorite part of the third story is when you see that little foot trip the dude, the political advisor, trip him down the stairs. I always laugh every time that little foot just like, and then it just kind of, he falls down the stairs and he dies. Like, oh.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think there's a lot to kind of unpack here with this third story. And again, still relevant. And I think from there's the fourth story. And this is the one about like
the gang.
This is true. Yes. With a gangster. That one was kind of tragic, right? Where it's kind of like, I viewed it as a really tragic story of like this person who's lost their humanity by being subject to a system of oppression that they had no choice but to kind of force themselves to kind of persevere, right?
Be that. Yeah. And exactly. The thing to me that was. But the thing to me that's interesting about this story is the ignorance that he has, right? He had no idea he was doing this. He had no idea that, you know, he was killing a lot of people of his race, his ethnicity. But there again, growing up in the streets, it becomes a survival thing because you have no choice, you know? A lot of these kids are recruited before they develop any kind of common sense. So this is what they know. And a lot of the rewards punishment systems that are in place are a part of how much you could do for that particular gang, right? So there is no other perspective of like you're doing the wrong thing because nobody ever provides that perspective. So that's why he's very defensive. That's why he's like, no, I don't do that. You know, he doesn't accept it. And it's interesting because this story was the one that had the less scope because there was so much you could say about it. You know, they didn't even go into why gang culture exists, or what drives it. But I guess that wasn't the point. The point was just to show the world that, you know, here we are killing each other in like stupid, mindless ways that really have no relevance to your future other than getting you into like prison, you know, or killing you. So this is another good story that landed for me.
Well,
I will say that I was not comfortable watching this dude in his Speedo for like you know. I was like, come on, bro. Like, is this necessary in this picture, you know? But other than that, you know, whatever. It was a good story.
But I kind of like that little Clockwork Orange scene that they had, and they're like flashing images of him of like the KKK lynching them and all that. And then now it's like, okay, well, the KKK doesn't even have to do it because you're doing it to yourselves.
Yeah.
You know?
Like,
that was good.
And I enjoyed very powerful stuff with the people popping up that died on his account, and then you got the little girl, and she, right. You know, basically I did nothing, and he was trying to justify it by saying, you know, a bullet doesn't have a name. I didn't mean to.
Yeah,
but that doesn't take it away, right? Just because he didn't mean to do it, she's still dead.
Yeah, that was
I was gonna say that was, and then the wraparound story, which I thought was it was more comedy than anything, because Clarence Williams III was really hamming it up. If we thought Coburn Bernstein was hamming it up, this guy was really hamming it up.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of wacky, the ending there.
I did enjoy that transformation to the big reveal of Clarence Howard that turned out to be the devil. That was a great little transition. They were fucked since as soon as they rung the doorbell, they were fucked, and he was just taking the time to show them these different stories before you're like, all right, you actually died.
And that was Clarence Williams in the actual makeup, the third. That was actually him in the makeup, and he had a horrible time in the makeup, from what I understand.
Yeah, but he didn't have trouble rocking that hair, though. He was comfortable with that. So
Bride of Frankenstein shit.
and of course, I mean, we seen that trope is classic, right? In anthology films, the whole strangers in a room, and then they end up being dead, and they're just kind of. We saw that in Tales from the Crypt from 1975, and we've seen it before in other anthology. I think Asylum had the same storyline. So that's something. I remember when I saw
Asylum had the same exact storyline. They just
not the same storyline, but the same trope of like all these strangers telling stories, and they're all like in purgatory. So when I saw it, I was a teenager. I was like 14 years old when this film came out. And I saw it. Like I picked up on the twist right away, like because I had already seen all these other films, and so it wasn't
like to expect.
Yeah, it wasn't a revelation to me. But what was like just the whole transition into like Clarence Williams III turned into the devil and all that. That was pretty cool, especially for the effects of the time, you know. But yeah, I love this movie. This is a cult classic. They try to keep up that thing with the sequels, but the sequels are just they're terrible. Part 3 is really bad. Part 2 is decent, like whatever, but Part 3 is really bad.
Brian could tell us. He watches all of them when we do these.
Yeah, I did a rewatch. There's some good messages in the second one. It's just told very poorly. And the third one is just completely forgettable.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like Creepshow 3. One we never talk about.
And then there was a Creepshow 3.
And then I think David Keith is he takes over the Clarence Williams III, right? He does that now, from what I remember.
That would make sense. Yeah.
Clarence Williams, the third, they asked him to come back, but I think he had retired at that time. So keep David. Not David Keith. Good choice.
Yeah. He's always a good choice. All right. Any other words, Neraldin?
I think that's all I got for Tales from the Hood.
All right. Pedro?
No, same thing. I mean, I've been talking the whole time. I mean, I love this film. And it's one that's it's very relevant, and I like how sometimes these filmmakers, they use genre to be political, which is nice, you know, because you kind of sneak it in there. You know, it's not forced. Like I never felt forced when I'm watching this kind of, you know.
Right.
Whereas other filmmakers, it's all about the political message, and it comes off as forced, and I think that's what
hitting you over the head with it.
Yeah, and that's what creates divide, right? Because if you're watching that, and all of a sudden you feel judged, and it's like, I don't want to watch this shit, and then that's where the conflict comes in. But when you use genre, like horror genre, or even at times comedy, right? Like a dark comedy, you get away with it. And I think the message is better stated and more clear when you do it that way.
Yeah, I think you're right. Brian?
Yeah, I agree with everything Neraldin and Pedro said about the movie. This movie's a classic. I tried to I got a t-shirt that I bought in Texas Frightmare when I was with you guys. I can't find it. I was going to wear it tonight. Seen this movie many times. Classic. The message, it gets across clearly without being heavy-handed. I think it was a perfect way to tell these stories using horror, because you know there's real life horror going on, so use this genre to get your message across. And then it had humor mixed in just to kind of lighten up, you know, certain aspects of it. Great cast, big names at the time. A lot of
Wings
them
Hauser, he was awesome in this movie.
Wings Hauser, Corbin Bernsen.
The first one.
The last story that we talked about with the gangster Crazy K, he unfortunately, Lamont Bentley and Ricky Harris were in that story. They passed away not too long ago. Well, Lamont Bentley, I believe he passed away a while ago. Not too long after that came out. Joe Torre, like you said, Wings Hauser. Rusty Cundiff was he's the director. He was the teacher in the domestic violence story.
Ah, okay, I gotcha.
And his mom was the lady, the voodoo lady or whatever that comes out at the end with Baron Corbin. Corbin Burnson is getting beat up by the little dolls.
Oh, nice.
She's the lady on the chair.
Oh, in the rocking chair.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I have this movie, Scream Factory put out a great edition, and I'm still, like I've said this before on this show, I will always be a physical media guy. I still have my movies, and I saw this movie. I saw this movie with the commentary on, so there was a lot of good information there.
Yeah, I don't really have nothing new to add. I mean, like I said, this movie's super quotable. Like I said right before we got into this, yes, the shit. I still say that when someone says the shit, and I say it, and I could tell if they've seen the movie or not by the look on their face. Like, it was like, what the hell are you talking about? The whole conversation about the refried beans.
Right.
Fuck, you just didn't fire him right the first time.
Right.
Super quotable, super good, classic. I think I honestly think it's underrated because I don't see enough people talk about this movie, especially when they bring up 90s horror movies.
Yeah, I think I mean, I'm a huge fan of anthologies. I've tracked them all down. I watched them all, even like the really low budget, crappy ones, and I think that hurts it. I think anthologies are always gonna like be looked at different than like a full feature. So that's one of the things that works against it as far as like keeping it in like the lexicon of like talking about it in modern times. So I think that's one of the things that it has going for it. I mean, going against it.
Yeah, but it's very Tales from the Crypty, so I think that works.
Yeah, it's not a 2.5 hour Terrifier 2, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Epic.
I wish more films, more anthologies got theatricals. I think there's I don't know, maybe there isn't, there's really no fans for anything right now in the theaters other than like established IPs, but sure. I don't know, I think there's a place for anthology films in movie theaters and we don't get them anymore, which is sad.
Maybe it'll come back, man.
I don't know. I don't think movies are gonna come back other than Deadpool and Wolverine. The way things are looking nowadays.
Okay. We'll see. Lance, what do you think?
And like the first 3 stories were cool, but when it got into that 4th story where you guys were talking about he was in his Speedo, and you go into that, you talk about just fucking batshit crazy, dude. Like he was spinning around really super fast. They sped up the camera to show him spinning around while they were fucking with him, and then you had all these like sexy women doctors coming out and like. It was just like, so Clockwork Orangey, right? But like kind of its own thing. So that was the one that I really enjoyed, just because it was so totally fucked up, and I just wasn't expecting it. Because like the first 3 stories, if you think about it, it's kind of like, all right. So if you watch like the old Star Trek, the original series, every single episode has like a message that has to do with whatever's going on currently, right? So there's the racism story. There's the anti-war story. There's the, billionaires, or I guess back in the early 60s when Star Trek was out, it was like the evil millionaires, right? So you got all these weird stories, but they use a science fiction cover to tell them. So I thought the first 3 stories were kind of serious, but once that 4th one hit, I don't know, I guess I was just in the right mood because my edible was starting to kick in. But like those weird scenes and what they made him wear, and the sexy women doctors, and then the lady that she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna help you. I'm with the city, I'm with the prison board. I'm here to help you." It was just, I think that one kind of is the one I enjoyed the most. So, and like you guys said, the wraparound was, it's always cool when you got a movie where at the end of it, people think they're like, going somewhere for one thing, but they find out they're somewhere totally different. And they're kind of like victims or like being dragged through it. I didn't know it was going to get that fucking literal. I didn't know they were literally in hell with a devil. But yeah, man, I enjoyed it. But like I said, those first 3 stories to me were just kind of, interesting, and I definitely understand what they're saying here, and they were kind of like important. But I kind of wanted to just get down with a super fucked up weird movie, and on that fourth sequence, that's what I got. So that's the one I enjoyed the most.
I did too, actually. Plus, I think that one had the most to say. The cop one was pretty cool. Thank God we have the transparency with body cams and stuff now. I think that helps on both sides. The doll one was a little silly, but kind of fun.
Right.
David Alan Grier.
Hated it.
But that one was still pretty good and had a lot to say. I enjoyed it, man. It's always a good movie.
I wonder if that was an artistic choice by David Alan Grier to show that bullies are actually like cowards in the real world, and when it's time to get down, that's how they look.
So. I think
or it could just
totally
be that
right,
him just didn't know how to throw a punch in real life.
Well, even when he's hitting her with the belt, you could tell he was it was.
Yes.
Bullies are punks, right? Bullies are bitches. If you beat up on a woman, you're a bitch. Period.
Yes.
You could also take into account maybe it was coming through in his acting that he didn't want to do that, and it probably showed in his acting.
Yeah, it's a weird person to pick for that role.
That's what I thought. Actually, when I first saw him, I was like, is that? No, that's not David Allen Grier.
I think he comes from before he was into comedy acting, I think he had a theater background.
Yeah, he's like a classically trained actor.
Yeah,
so he probably took the role just to challenge himself,
Yeah. Well, and I thought he did pretty good until, he was actually trying to make contact with a punch or something. That wasn't working out.
Yeah, right.
I could have been filmed better, I guess. But, it's 90s horror anthology. That's what I'm saying. It did come across as very Tales from the Cryptish. But I still enjoy it.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
You get what you think you're going to get, right?
All right. Scores. Norelden, what do you think?
I'd give this one 8 scary stories to tell after midnight. Oh, wait, no. Sorry. Wrong podcast.
No, it's cool, dude. Yeah, whatever works, man. I like it.
8 on 10. I wanted to give a shout out.
Pedro?
I would have to go 9 on 10. I love this film.
Shit!
The message is there. It's filmed beautifully. We didn't even talk about the cinematography, especially the night scenes with the cop story. Those are beautiful. I mean, the paintings, the murals. When they get stuck there.
Yeah.
Just good stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna go 9 on 10.
All right, Brian.
I was at 8.5, but just thinking about the movie, it kind of took me back to when I was younger, to when almost every movie had a hip hop soundtrack, especially in the 90s.
Yeah.
So that just bumped it up to a 9 for me.
Nice.
Lance?
I'll go a point above Night Swim.
Oh God.
Jesus.
Oh God.
Hey man, it's a solid 7 out of 10. Okay. Solid.
That still puts it in the same realm as Night Swim.
In no world should they even be together.
I know. And I know you guys will never forgive me for that.
We never forgive you for Pet Cemetery.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go 7.5. Yeah, good, solid.
Damn.
Yeah.
Good scores.
Yeah, definitely check it out in case you haven't seen it. All right, on to the next one, which is Savageland from 2015. When a small town near the Arizona-Mexico border is wiped out overnight, suspicion falls on the lone survivor. But a roll of photos the survivor took that night tells a different story. Directors and writers are Phil Guidry, Simon Herbert, and David Whelan.
That's a lot of directors, man.
Yeah. The mural shown at the end is still on the side of the building in Los Angeles. 2 years later, it hasn't been defaced with graffiti.
Okay.
Well, I gotta go look for it.
The only
Yeah,
one.
you're that's in your neighborhood, man. Come on.
Yeah.
Len Wein, creator of Marvel's Wolverine, plays a Vietnam photographer, Len Matheson, a combination of his first name and second name of his favorite writer, Richard Matheson.
No shit.
Oh, look at that.
The things you learn.
All right.
That is a trip. Okay.
Nerelden, what'd you think about Savageland?
So Savageland, I think it's a really interesting story, right? So it's like a mockumentary. It starts pretty much starts from like starts from the end to kind of the beginning. And it basically talks about kind of the racial tensions that exist within the borderlands of the southern United States. So what is like what you could say California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, right? The Mexican border. And I think I got a quote right here that I wrote down for some of my notes is that I think this movie took the idea of like a picture is worth 1,000 words and like just really ran with it, right? Mm-hmm. And these pictures are trying to depict kind of what happened to this small town. So this small town was allegedly killed by this one dude who happened to be a Mexican immigrant, right? So I think he kind of became the scapegoat for a lot of the racial tensions that exist within a lot of border towns that kind of they took that opportunity and be like, hey, this person is a great person to kind of pile this political pressure on and kind of this political narrative on top of to kind of justify the continued discrimination for a lot of illegal immigrants that come to the United States, right? And
made him into the boogeyman, basically.
Exactly, right? And I think any common person
he's gonna steal your jobs. He's gonna rape your daughters. He's gonna fuck up your life. Yeah,
exactly. They completely ran with that narrative, especially when they bring in the sheriff. The sheriff really like latches onto that and is like, no, this is what happened, right? And a lot of the townsfolk, they kind of, I'm pretty sure they pedestal the sheriff, and so they kind of take his word as gospel, and that's kind of the narrative that's kind of conveyed throughout that community. But I think looking at it like any common person would be like one person versus 32 people. Like there's no fucking way one person is going to kill 32 people over the span of a night. Like it's impossible. Someone has to do something, right? And I think another quote that I have about this movie, it says the third largest mass murder that's happened in the United States so far, right? That's kind of what where my brain kind of took me. And for the most part, I think it was a really good story because it kind of goes into kind of taking a step-by-step interaction of what happened during that night as through the lens of like a reporter who's kind of uncovering all these details that are kind of presenting it in the documentary, right? And I think there's a lot of different kind of narratives that are presented in this story in the conclusion that I guess a person is left to kind of come to their own conclusions. But I think it's a good film. I think there's a lot to talk about this, and so I want to kind of hear from y'all in terms of what y'all experienced during your first watch for Savageland.
Well, I was gonna ask, like, so is it demons? Like, what happened exactly?
I think from what
I was zombies.
It was like a cursed land, right? It was like a cursed land, like maybe like an old graveyard or something. And these things just came out and destroyed that entire little town. And like you said, the horror aspect of it is connected to like real politics and the way I think the inherent biases that a lot of like cultures, because they don't understand each other, sometimes present. I actually owned this movie, but I couldn't find it, and so I was like, I ended up seeing it on Tubi. It's a great film. The only thing that I really wish is that it would have been a little more subtle. I think there's a lot of things like the sheriff is just straight up like racist, like to the point. There's a scene in the movie where he doesn't even want to call the town what it is, right? He's like Santo de whatever, and it's like it's Savageland, and that everybody like, and to me it's like. He would have never been able to get away with that if that was the real world. Like you can't do that. Like, so to me, like when I'm seeing this film, I'm seeing, yeah, there's aspects to it that are very much based on reality, right? Of course. And we see this happen all the time. But this particular story, you know that there would have been a bombardment of like advocacy work for the migrant, right? For the so that kind of disconnected me a little bit. Like I was like, this there's no subtlety here. Like it's really like these racist white people against this immigrant. Like had it been a little more subtle, I would have gone along with the right with a little more. But just understanding that if this would have been a news editorial, like so many people would have popped out from all over the country to protect this guy because it's obvious.
Well, you would hope so. Yeah.
I mean, it happens still. Like people, there's a lot of advocates that pop out when somebody, like for example, like the Memphis Three, right? How many people fought for them all those years, until they were finally freed after all those years. So right. So that was one of the things. Like, man, it's so like the sheriff is pretty much a cartoon. Like I was like, come on, bro. Like, you can't be talking.
Wile Coyote, huh?
Yeah. So maybe if it would have been like subtly racist, I would have really bought into the film. But the fact that he's out there just straight out like, that's Savageland, and that's not the name of the town, but that's what he calls it because he views the people that live there as savages, right?
Yeah, I didn't get that much out of it from that perspective, man. I just thought it was incredibly well filmed. I mean, I literally thought I was watching a documentary at times. No, I just think it was really well done in that respect.
Yeah. No, and I love those movies. I love the movies that are mockumentaries like that, where they're like kind of news documentaries because right. you're like peeling an onion, right? You're getting to the middle of it.
Sure.
And you're getting more and more bits of information. And there's like something creepy about these kind of films, right? Where I don't know if it's because our brain is used to seeing real. Yeah, it's like it kind of real.
Like a news story.
There's like a creep factor, very you feel like uneased, right? So that worked for me in this film because you're seeing it, you're like, what the fuck's going on here? And then they start talking about the people that go up to that water tower and then they just throw themselves off, and it's like, what were they experiencing? So I think it was very clever the way this film was made because you knew they had no money, but they were able to allow our brains to come up with what was really happening as the town is getting massacred one by one. Like when they got to, I think it was the preacher and his family, and how like the preacher I think killed his family, although I don't think that's what happened. I think the demons or whatever killed his family, and then he was trying to protect them, right? Because he saw the demons, and he was trying to give his kids like a quick death because of what he was seeing. But the fact that he got judged. Go ahead.
I just want to share that the priest's last name was Benoit.
Oh, that's a wrestling thing for the people that don't understand what's happening.
Okay. All right.
But he wasn't even buried with his family. They decided to bury him separate once they found the remains. But then we're led to believe that the real story was that he was trying to protect them from these demons or whatever. So I do like the little roadmap that they take you on, how everything's happening one by one with these families, with the people that were walking. Again, it looks real, like the documentary looks real. So yeah, no, I like this film. And of course, it does bring up a lot of the inherent biases that people have because we don't get the time to really understand each other, unfortunately. So it was like, yeah, they found a scapegoat. Like, to me, like, the prosecutors and the sheriff, what was easier, to really investigate what happened with these film shots, or just like feed this guy to the wolves, right? Well, no, there's the guilty party. Let's go ahead and execute them, and we could move on with our lives. And that's what happens, even though that wasn't the truth of what really happened. Yeah. So I really like this film. I think again, had it been a little more subtle, I would have liked it even more. But even it kept me entertained for an hour and a half. So I really enjoyed it.
All right, Brian?
Yeah, just like Tales from the Hood, I thought this brought together like social issues and the horror genre and told the story, in a perfect way. I've never seen this movie before. This is the first time I watched. Narelden, thank you, because I really enjoyed this one. And this movie creeped me out because I think, like you said, Pedro, I think my mind was kind of, I know it's a mockumentary, but the way the movie was filmed and the way they were showing these clips and these interviews, my mind was telling me that I'm watching like a true case.
Yeah, like a Netflix miniseries or something, right?
And I just like the way the story was told and how we got one side of the story, then we eventually got his side of the story, and then we were shown the pictures of what really happened. And man, that sheriff, that guy had an answer for everything. There's no way that he could have killed over 30 people in the town in one night. Well, he was a handyman, so he knew the whole layout of the land.
Right,
he could expertly move in and out.
That.
I was like, wow, you're reaching here.
Like but super handyman, huh?
I thought it was. I watched this late at night too, and it creeped me out, and I just felt so bad for the townspeople, what they went through, and what. You got something to add, Geraldine?
No. Sorry, keep going.
Okay. Yeah, it was just a tragic story, and then to find out that I kind of wanted more, because when you get to the end, you kind of find out that what's happening in this town is happening in the other towns, and it's moving north, and people are still kind of dismissing it, and I just really wanted to see what happens after that. Hopefully, is there a sequel to this or?
No, there isn't.
Okay.
And going back to what we were saying, that little trope, that whole mockumentary thing, that's why I think also Hell House LLC works so well, because it always works. Like, I've never seen films that are like these kind of mockumentaries that don't work on me. They always keep me feeling kind of like a little creeped out at the end, That's why I like watching them. There's a few other ones that are like this, but this one in particular really worked well, just because there was also like this, everybody was so somber just retelling these stories, and so that's why I also think it worked. But yeah, the ending was very like Stephen King-ish, right? Where it's like the evil continues, like it doesn't end here, and it just goes on to the next town.
They just can't end the story like Stephen King, right?
And like Pedro said, it's on Tubi, but if people don't want to watch ads, it is on YouTube.
And it's on Screenbox. I watched it on Screenbox.
YouTube's for free.
I think it's wrong. Yeah, that's true.
Well, Screenbox is like fucking $26 a year, so it's almost free.
YouTube, you save $26 a year.
There you go.
All right, Lance.
Yeah, this was fun, man. I think I've heard of it before. I think I've heard some people talk about it on another podcast, but I just can't believe how well that they made it look like a documentary. It was just incredibly well filmed, because they didn't go over the top. They didn't go with all the special effects. The only thing that bothered me, and Pedro, I messaged you about this, and you said, but that adds to the creep factor, and you're right. But I kind of wish the pictures hadn't been so blurry, because I kind of got that Bigfoot feeling. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like
he was not
all the pictures of UFOs or Bigfoot.
You got to take into account
here we go again.
Got to take into account that he's running around frantically taking his pictures. He's not
and at night, which is hard.
He's like not telling the demons, like, all right, stay still, let me get this shot.
Yeah, and it kind of confused me a little bit as far as the message, because in a way it almost felt like, well, the evil is creeping from Mexico up north, and I'm like, well, that's a little racist, I don't know. Maybe I misread that part of it, but I enjoyed the documentary aspect of it. I wish that some of the pictures had turned out kind of clear, where you could actually see, was it demons? Was it zombies? Fuck, Philo, was it aliens, right?
Oh, yeah.
To take a page out of your book. So
that's true. It was the Chupacabras.
But then again, it's kind of cool that they sort of left it open like that. So I don't know. I would say the acting was really, really good, because I honestly thought I was watching a Netflix documentary. It did not feel like a theatrical movie. It didn't feel like a movie with a plot. It felt like an actual documentary interviewing real people. People were saying things that they would say in real life. And it kind of got me. I kind of enjoyed this. I really did. This was a good one, man. I'm glad you turned us on to it.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I wish that they had not leaned so hard on the racism angle and focused more on the.
Well, Yeah, that's what Pedro was saying.
Yeah,
little heavy-handed, right?
It was kind of heavy-handed with that stuff, and it sort of watered down the movie a little bit for me.
Understandable.
But I did like the whole documentary part of it. I love these kind of movies. I wish maybe he'd had some video instead of just pictures. I think that.
I know.
Even if it was blurry, you know. But you know, they were working with what they had. Obviously, it was very low budget. And yeah, I think the actors actually did do a pretty good job. Yeah, I liked it, man. Pretty
Well,
good.
I didn't feel like we were watching actors. I really felt like we were watching small town people.
Like a lot of them seemed
and that's hard to pull off.
Yeah, because a lot of like if you're trying to get small town people to do this mockumentary thing and say something, it comes across kind of goofy, you know. Hide your kids, hide your wife, you know.
Yep.
That old number. But yeah, no, I think they did a really good job with it. I would like to see a sequel. I think that'd be cool.
Did they ever explain? I don't know if I caught this. Did they ever explain why the demons didn't get him at the end? How was he able to get away? Did they ever explain that?
The only part that I saw was that he was like, because he knew the lay of the land, he was kind of hopping from house to house and avoiding them somehow.
I don't think it ever said. I just know he was kind of happy to be locked up because he said they can't get me in here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen that before in many movies.
Till they all turn into zombies.
Oh yeah, and then he's locked in there.
Yeah.
Like, basically in the cupboard for them to grab a piece of meat every time they want, right?
But they do allude that they do get him at the end because they kind of allude that they were the ones that got his corpse out of the grave. And I know that the racist sheriff was like, yeah, two great patriots went there and they dug him out and they took him out. But I think we're led to believe that they ended up getting him in the end.
Well, they also said when they were going through the evidence, some of the dismembered bodies had bite marks on them from humans.
Yeah.
He also had the same bite marks on him, so he could have if it was like an infection or something, he could have been infected the whole time. And when he got executed, then that's when he probably came back, or whenever time after.
Although it seems like if they were like zombies that they didn't just disappear. So somebody would have seen them at some point.
Well, yeah. It was very open-ended. I wish that the pictures had been a little clearer, and Brian's right. It kind of needs a sequel. I wouldn't mind seeing where it goes from here. Like maybe next time instead of Arizona, New Mexico or Colorado.
Yeah, but I also think that's part of why the film works, because they never really tell you what's happening. They just
that is a very good point.
Because remember, from their perspective as investigators and doing this news story, they don't have all the answers. So they're kind of trying to piece it together. The only one that has the answer was the guy, and he's dead because they executed him. So and they're not gonna believe him anyway. But he's so like shell shocked, right, that he can't even talk. Like he was catatonic at the end. So I think that was an artistic choice to not really tell you what the hell was really going on. I don't know. I think this story also would have been maybe a little more powerful if they would have had a little dirt on the guy, and maybe the thought. When the film ended, maybe if we would have left with this idea of like, maybe he did do it, you know? I think leaving it open-ended like that. But this movie decided to just make him such a hero, right? And then of course the sheriff's such like a racist bastard.
Yeah.
So you're rooting for him the entire time. So when the film ends, it's more about what really happened, not so much whether he did it or not, because we're pretty sure he didn't do it. So maybe the film would have worked a little more if we would have had some doubts on that as well.
Yeah, but fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, that would have added some layers to it for sure. I agree.
Yeah.
I also think one last little thing. Y'all talking about like the pictures, like maybe if they were like videos. I think the pictures were like a really cool, creative form of expression. I think I mentioned at the beginning, like a picture is worth 1,000 words. And I remember when I first saw this film, I was like, these pictures they kind of suck. Like it's kind of blurry. I had that same sentiment.
That's what I was thinking, man.
The more I've seen it, the more that's my favorite part of the movie, right? Where it's kind of like I let my imagination kind of just run wild of like, holy crap, like what would have happened in this scenario? What were these people kind of feeling? What was going on, right? And I think the kind of the uncertainty of kind of what was going on kind of made me create a picture in my head that was like really scarier each time that I've seen this film. So I've kind of seen it like,
makes sense. Yeah,
I've seen it 3 times, and each time progressively the photos have been like my favorite part of it. But that's just my perspective, right?
Yeah.
And I think another thing that I kind of want to mention, there was like a little homage to kind of Halloween, right? Where it was like, why did he go towards the little girl, right? Like out of all of these people that he was like, could have tried to save, or like in the town, it was like, why her? You know, why are you going to her? Why are you trying to kind of go save the girl of the priest, you know?
Yeah.
And so that was kind of super interesting. I was like, what's the reasoning behind that? What's the story behind that, right?
Yeah, that part was weird to me, actually.
It was a little weird, right? And so it was kind of like just why her, right? But yeah, I think that's also kind of what I wanted to add in terms of the pictures when I was hearing y'all talk.
Yep.
And another thing, one last thing on my end, like I like how every time whatever demonic presence is moving through the town, it's like a different story, right? You had the story with the priest, then you had the story with the people in the water tower, then you had the story of the guy that had the shotgun that was just outside this. I think he's the first victim, the one outside the city of the town. So it almost in your brain you're creating all these stories of all what happened that night, and all these mini stories as all these people are getting killed. You know what's going on. Because in some pictures, it seems like they turn on each other, right? There's that scene where the priest is getting, like, you could see the hand and is trying to take him into the wall. And then in another picture, you have like demonic eyes. Like, are these people turning into demons? You don't really know, and that's why it's so creepy.
You know what, Pedro? The more I'm thinking about it, as much Stephen King as I've read, this is very Stephen King.
Yeah,
that's this is like Salem's Lot or Under the Dome, or like, you know, a town that's assaulted with like these creatures or whatever it is. So yeah, I think there was a lot of influence there. Now that you guys mention it, I really see that. I feel this same vibe in a lot of his stories that I read, for sure.
Yeah, like The Mist, right? The Mist with all those creatures.
There you go, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big King thing right there, you know?
This movie also reminded me of The Bay as well, right? I think it's got that same type of vibe. The Bay.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. And it also works as a mockumentary. Have you guys ever seen The Bay?
The Bay.
Oh yeah. We've talked about The Bay. I think Brian, we reviewed it.
We did a commentary.
We did a commentary. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, no, that's another great movie that uses this format that also works.
But also John Carpenter's The Fog. A little bit,
that's
right?
Another one.
So, you know, it works. It works.
It's a tournament-tested method of creating films.
All right, scores. Norelden, what do you think?
I give this again an 8 scary Polaroids out of 10.
All right.
Shake it like a Polaroid picture.
I give this 7.5 on 10. That is a really good movie.
All right, Brian.
I'm gonna give it an 8. Great first time watch. I just like the whole mockumentary style of filming. Like I said, the acting and the way it was filmed, it just made me feel like I was watching something real.
All right, Lance.
Yeah, good 7. Good solid 7, man. I really thought I was watching a documentary. And when you can pull that off with, I'm sure they had a very limited budget. So when you can pull it off with that small of a budget, and, you know, like you guys said, some of the acting may be over the top. I didn't catch on that as much as just like the overall storyline. And I love the way they filmed it. So it was definitely an enjoyable watch.
Nice.
I'm gonna be the low man on the totem pole here. I'm gonna go. I still like it though. 6.5. I think it was
That's still good.
pretty solid movie.
Good.
Yeah.
That's only half a point more than Night Swim, but that's all right.
Night Swim. Here we go.
All right, and our feel-good movie of the week, The Nightingale, from 2018. This is a first-time watch for me. Director and writer is Jennifer Kent, also known for The Babadook. Jennifer Kent worked as an apprentice to Lars von Trier on the production of Dogville from 2003. She considered this to be her film school. And that's all the trivia we got. Norelden, what'd you think about The Nightingale?
Oh, The Nightingale. Oh man, this movie was brutal. Oh my God. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really know what to expect coming into this film. I haven't watched it prior to my recommendation. I think I shared last week. I overheard the March Madness Elevated Horror podcast a while back ago, and Nightingale always stuck in my head. I'm like, this is something that I need to watch. So I figured, all right, it might be a good suggestion for my Patreon pick. And so I kind of went in blind, so I didn't know anything about this film. And so as I'm watching it, it's just it was super brutal. Especially, oh my God, dude! Speaking of those 20 minutes, so I'm watching it at home, right? My partner's doing like a whole bunch of dishes and everything, right? And kind of helping her out around the house. And I'm like, hey, I need to watch this film for this podcast that I'm going to be a part of, right? And she's like, okay, fine, take your time, like it's okay, like I got it, right? And so she ends up like asking me for help or something, and so I paused the film, and she kind of comes to the living room, and I unpause it, and it's the scene where there's just a dead baby on the ground, and I'm like, she looks at me and she's like, "What the hell are you watching?" And I'm like, I swear, this is not the main point of this movie. There's more to this. Like, please, overlook what you just saw. And she was like, "Oh my God." Anyway, so she kind of just turned around. And so she walked in at the worst possible time for this film. But I think The Nightingale was a really good film and a really powerful story in terms of like the brutality that is colonization, right? Whether it's in Australia or for a lot of indigenous folks throughout the world. I didn't know that coming in. And the more I watched it, the more I kind of really appreciated the humanity that was trying to be conveyed during times of severe oppression that was like colonial Australia, right? Right. Or the colonization of Australia. And so at first I really felt for the lead actress. I don't know I forget their name right now, but I really was kind of like on their side, right? Like, yes, get revenge on this fool. Because what was the name of the sergeant of the movie?
Hawkins.
Or like the actor. Hawkins is probably the person that I've hated the most in any film I've ever seen. He had real heel heat with me. I'm like, this guy is a piece of shit. I hate him so much. I hope he dies in a very slow.
His own guys didn't kill him.
Oh yeah, my God, I hated him so much. I've never had this emotion towards a character, and I think that's a good thing, right? And so props to him because he did a good job of kind of conveying that, right? He had a job and he did it.
Kind of like Joffrey from Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. yes, very similar sentiment. And so I'm watching this. I'm on her side, right? Of like, all right, get revenge on the people that have killed your family, right? And so as the story progressed, right, there's a whole different layer of like Aboriginal folks kind of being the guides for their land, right? Because again, it's their land. They were there since time immemorial. They know the ins and outs. And so they've been exploited to kind of just be guides.
And then she's pointing a rifle at him and calling him boy.
Yes.
Layer upon layer, right?
Exactly. Thank you for pointing that out. That's exactly what I was feeling, right? So I was on her side, and then that kind of, okay, then that extra layer of kind of prejudice comes out, right? Where it's kind of that classism that exists within a lot of social kind of caste systems, like right? And it's kind of like a caste system hierarchies, right? That have existed within colonization. And so that kind of came out and it reared its ugly head. And so I was kind of conflicted as well. But as the story progressed, right, their humanity kind of really came out. I think a scene that really broke me, and I hate using that term, but it just naturally came out, was like when the mom was lactating, because her body still thinks that she needs to feed a baby and a baby is dead. And that was super powerful. I was like, oh, fuck. I'm glad my partner didn't walk in during that scene. She was like, what the fuck are you watching?
Pretty rough. Yeah, pretty rough.
And so all in all, I really appreciated the ending of the story, where it was kind of, it was like a bittersweet ending, right? Because Blackbird, my boy Blackbird, loved that dude. That dude was fucking awesome. I loved him. Blackbird found out that all of his people are dead. He is the last of his people, and that's a horrible fucking feeling, right? But he did get his comeuppance, right? He was able to kill the people, some of the people that are the main cause for the death of his entire community, of his people. But it came at a cost, right? I don't know if he lived or he died, but at the end of the day, he died with a big middle finger to the person that was immediately oppressing him, right? It was like a big fuck you. I survived. She survived. The people that you hated are still here. And this was just the story of surviving. So it was real life horror, right? I kind of thought it was going to be a little bit more of a boo scare, especially since the director Jennifer Kent, they directed Babadook, so I was expecting a little bit of a boo scare, but it was something a lot more intense than kind of that, and I really appreciated it. And so it was a great film, and that's my piece. I want to hear from everyone else.
Yeah, I didn't. By the way, this film is pretty long, right? It's like 2 hours, but Terrifier 2 is 25 minutes longer than this film. I just want to put that out there because that's how long that fucking movie
just to
is.
point it out.
FYI. Yeah.
But I saw when it came out, and it left a big impression on me, as it should, you know. And what I agree with everything you said, Norel, and everything. One of the things that I wanted to add was that it also brings up this conversation of revenge, because even at the end, you don't really see her getting the piece that she thought she was gonna get. You know,
it got very muddled, didn't it?
Yeah, because I think not to interrupt you, Pedro, but I think the first guy she kills, she takes out. Mm-hmm. Doesn't she? He like haunts her in her dreams.
Yeah.
For what she did.
Yeah.
So.
and she really took him out, and he was kind of the tool. He wasn't even like the main driving force, you know.
But he also murdered her baby, so I don't think I would have felt too bad about that one.
Very true. Yeah. Very true.
But I think the lesson is that we even though it's harder and it's a longer road, practicing forgiveness is gonna get you further than killing somebody who has hurt you, because then you have to still carry that demon for the rest of your life, you know. And so it's very easy for us to say, if somebody hurt my baby, I would kill them and this and that, but it doesn't really bring you peace, because you still have to carry those wounds for the rest of your life, you know. Whereas
try telling that to John Wick, right?
Exactly.
Well, I feel like liberating yourself is through forgiveness, not only for that person, but more importantly for yourself,
right?
You know.
Okay.
And we see that in this film, where it's like, how much going forward she's still going to be haunted by what she experienced, and now there's going to be that guilt as well, because she killed people along the way, so it almost makes it worse in a lot of ways. So that was a good message that I took from the film as well.
Yeah, that's deep, man. And
also just this idea of understanding people and their worldviews, because I think a lot of times we forget that, right? You know, we're with her on this journey, and then we see her being very oppressive, right, with the shotgun, and then so to me it's like, where does it end? Well, it's never gonna end, because that's how prejudice thought works. So instead of like fighting it with prejudice, you want to just try to understand someone, where they come from, right? Well, what is their motivation? Sure. If you have generations of people telling you, well, this race is better than the other, you're going to carry that. And if nobody ever stays back and tries to understand that from you, it's going to lead to conflict. So I think that's another message of this movie, is that instead of just fighting hate with hate, you got to sit back and try to understand that person as much as possible. Now, not what was his name again? Hawkins? That guy was just a complete psychopath. Like, and he had no redeeming qualities. That's a whole different thing. And he was a character for the movie, etc. But in general, people are always a shade of gray, you know. Most people are not all evil or all good. We all have shades of gray, and we're all a reflection of our worldview and how we were brought up. So trying to understand that is going to lead to peace, instead of trying to always fight that, you know. And this movie really, really showed that. So that's one of the things that I like about it. But it was very dark, man. Norel, what the hell's wrong with you, man? You almost ruined my day watching this or thinking about this film. Anyway, those are my thoughts.
Almost ruined my own day too.
Brian?
Norelden, this is a movie I told myself I would never watch it again after the first time, but for you, I rewatched it. Great movie, but man, it is not the feel-good movie of the year of what year did it? 2018.
This isn't Deadpool versus Wolverine, huh?
No, it's not. And again, like Ari asked her, I asked the same question. What is wrong with what is her name? The director?
Jennifer Kent.
Jennifer Kent.
Oh, Jennifer Kent.
What is wrong with you after the Babadook and this?
Yeah.
But with that being said, this told a phenomenal story. I agree with everything Norelden and Pedro had said. Billy, what was it, Blackbird?
Yeah,
probably my favorite character. I went through ups and downs with Claire, Nightingale throughout the movie. Hawkins is the biggest piece of shit I've seen in a movie. This movie kicks you in the nuts the first 20 minutes of the movie, like I brought up, with rape and murder of an infant baby. Just horrible things happen in this movie, and you just go on this roller coaster or a ride. And great movie, but
enraged during that scene, man. Like,
and not the fact that
two people wouldn't have been able to hold me down. I promise you.
Not the fact that he did it himself. The fact that he told somebody else to do it, and they did.
Yeah.
I was just like, what the fuck am I watching?
But sorry to interrupt. I think in that same scene, I think when I was watching, I'm like, they're not going to do this. They're not going to do what I think they're going to do, and then they fucking did, and it was
questionable. Yeah,
a lot of uncomfortable, tough things that were in this movie that we don't get a lot of this on our show because it's rape and stuff that happens to children. It just makes me uncomfortable. That's why we'll probably never review a Serbian film and stuff like that.
Right.
It just makes me uncomfortable. But the movie itself was I think a better film than the Babadook, honestly.
Yeah.
If you were to ask Jennifer Kent, she would say like that's the point of the movie, to make you uncomfortable, you know. And so
mission accomplished.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's a better film than the Babadook. I think she's grown as a filmmaker, and I can't pronounce her name, but Aisling for Chelsea.
Sure.
Played Claire. Yeah, great performance. And I'm not even sure if I've seen her in anything else. I don't even think this movie was really talked about. And I watched a couple videos on it, and they brought up a good point, like performances like this, and something like what's her name from Hereditary?
Toni Collette.
Yeah, Toni Collette. Like, it's just shocking that stuff like this doesn't get noticed when it comes to awards and stuff like that.
I know.
So, great movie, but Norelden, I probably won't watch it for a third time.
Yeah.
You're done, huh?
A Serbian film is one that I haven't ever watched. I've always sort of wanted to because everybody says how awful it is, but
don't.
I probably don't. Lance, what'd you think?
You got a lot of bird imagery in this. So the movie is called The Nightingale, and she's the nightingale because what is it about nightingales? They sing during the night or something like that, like to be free, or I don't know. There's some kind of weird backstory about a nightingale, but then you got, our main man, he's the blackbird. He's just like, out flying free. Nobody can kind of cage him or keep him down. And then you got, I didn't even think about it. You guys said the guy's name is Hawkins, so that's like a hawk, right? Like a super aggressive bird, right? That hunts other birds and stuff like that. There's a lot of imagery here. I don't know how much of that was intentional. I'm guessing some of it was, but there's not too much that I really need to say about the movie that you guys haven't already talked about, because I thought it was going to be a straight rape revenge movie where we were going to get to see her like chop his head off or kill him with the death
or
of
his
1,000
wiener, as we've seen
cuts.
in other movies.
Oh, would have loved to have seen that. Made him eat it, or
Mhm.
made one of his men eat it. That would have been great, right? Awesome. And all kinds of blood, but it's almost kind of like the ending was more satisfying because it is so shady, right? Right? And then everybody's trying to be free and be their own person, and that's kind of where the bird motif comes in, I guess. I don't know. It's hard for me to talk about this movie just because it left me so uncomfortable, and I really did want to see it again, Eldon. Yeah, I really did, man.
Yeah,
But
real quick, that last one of the last scenes in the movie, just the fact that she tries to confront him in front of his fellow officers and accuses him of being a mass murderer and rapist, and nobody cares.
How they couldn't care less. They're all men. I'm not going to say too much. I don't want to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But again, we've seen that play out throughout history. That's what Nazi Germany was, right? I mean, everybody was following the hierarchy that was established for them, and you don't ask questions. You just follow orders, and there was a lot of research done on that over the years because of Nazi Germany.
Lots of tools, right?
Yeah, and so a lot of these people, when they're under a command, they're just gonna follow orders because that's their job. You don't question your job.
What would you do? Yeah, it's either that or they're going to hurt you or your family, right? I don't know.
Right.
It's a group mentality, man. People do that. They had an experiment where it was like they invited like one guy into a room and everybody else was actors, and they were all like standing up instead of sitting down in the seats. And so he just stood up too. And then one by one, they started replacing all the actors until it was all just regular people and nobody would sit down because everybody was just standing up when they got there. It's just crowd think.
It's weird. Yeah, that crowd think is fucking weird, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a strange movie. It's tough for me to talk about it, Roland. I got to be honest with you, man. It's just kind of it does make you uncomfortable, and it's definitely some good acting.
So Lance, if you're
I'm gonna break down.
No, but if you're not comfortable talking about the subject, what did you think about the cinematography, the film, like the actual filmmaking? Did you like that? Is that something that you appreciated?
I think it's gorgeous, man. I mean, in the way that they filmed in areas that are probably still to this day don't have a whole lot of people in them. A lot of wide open spaces, and it was kind of interesting to see everybody she came across. Everybody that her and Billy came across, they also had their own level of desperation, right? Yeah. It's like they weren't necessarily evil. They were just like, this is what we have to do to survive. And it's kind of like...
The world used to be a really brutal place. I mean, it still is in some parts, but,
It ain't like what it used to be, though, am I right? I mean, we've come a long way.
Yes.
But even though we've come a long way, it probably wouldn't hurt to work together and come a lot further. So,
right.
Nasty, brutish, and short. Who was it that said life is nasty, brutish, and short? It was like a big quote that I remember, but I can't remember who said it. I think it was a dude that wrote like historical books in the 1800s or something like that. But yeah, it's this is a rough movie, man. It's kind of hard for me to talk about it.
Yeah, man. Rape scenes are always super uncomfortable in the movies, especially when like it goes on for just a little bit too long. And this one had a couple of those. It was pretty rough to watch, but it also invoked a lot of emotion, especially at that first in the beginning, like rage. I thought it was a pretty beautifully done movie. I mean, like just in general, the movie was really good. It sort of worked because it was during like a colonization period. Even though I don't usually go for the political message movies, this one was at least with the setting and just showing how brutal this was. Can you imagine what Australia must have been like before anybody was there? I mean, it's like fucking Jurassic Park. That place is insane. It's like prehistoric time.
Kind of like Florida, Philip.
Yeah, with all the fucking alligators and shit.
Gators everywhere and bugs.
Yeah.
And,
it's crazy. But yeah, really, really beautifully done movie. A little uncomfortable to watch, but it was worth watching for sure.
Yeah, she hasn't worked since then though, so I don't know. Maybe because the movie flopped. It was a big flop, for what it cost and what it made. Yeah, it didn't really make a lot of money back. But she's only had 2 movies, and what was interesting about her is that when the Babadook came out, like she had so many options. She was flooded with scripts and ideas, and she decided to do this, which was her own idea.
Wow.
And then she hasn't done anything since. And this came out in 2018, so it was a while ago, and she never did anything after this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking. She did an episode in Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities.
Cabinet of Curiosities. That's right.
That's the only thing she's done.
Didn't she do the one where they were like all sitting around having dinner and they were tripping on acid or something like that? Or
I haven't seen the whole season, but
no, that was the guy that did Mandy. He did that.
Episode called
you're
The
right,
Murmuring.
You're right. That was the Mandy.
The episode was called The Murmuring.
And it had to do with birds too, right? Like it had to do the one she did in Cabinet of Curiosities. Weren't they both bird watchers?
Did that one have Andrew Lincoln in it? It had Andrew Lincoln in there, right?
Yeah. And everything goes back to The Walking Dead with you, dude.
I mean, I was just surprised because the guy has made so much money with The Walking Dead. Yep. He rarely works on anything else. He showed up in this. I remember, and it did have birds. It did have birds.
All right, scores, Norelden. What'd you think?
I'd give this film a 9 blackbirds out of 10.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go with a 8 on 10. I think, I don't know, man. It's very uncomfortable. It's a hard movie to watch. I try to always add some, entertainment, escapism to my ratings, and this is neither. I mean, it is entertaining.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Yeah. Not much levity to find here, is there?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go 8 on
10. No David Alan Greer cameo.
Yeah, no David Alan Greer throwing like sissy punches. None of that.
Brian?
Cinematography was great. The acting was solid. The storytelling was solid. I think I'm at an 8.5. If she was set out to make somebody uncomfortable and make them think, then she did the job. And kind of, like I said, it's kind of shocking that nobody got really bigger roles or moved on to bigger pictures after this movie.
Yeah. Lance?
8 on 10, man. 8 on 10.
This was my favorite of the 3. I'm gonna give it an 8.5. I think it was just a really well done movie. Yeah, a rough watch, but it was a well done movie.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's it.
All right. On that note, we want to thank you guys for listening to another episode of The Horror Returns. You guys know where to find us. Pedro, thanks for joining. Norelden, thanks for the movies, man.
Thank you for having me.
And next week, we're going to check out some M. Night territory, Pedro. How's it going to go? Is it going to be shitty M. Night, or is it going to be good M. Night?
Well, he refused to screen this movie for the critics, so he's not going to get any. But he did say, this is what he said. He said it wasn't because it sucks. Because usually when they don't screen the films, it means that the studio knows it sucks. He said there's a big twist in this movie, and so that's the reason why he's not gonna screen it for the critics. So we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't see what, because I think all of us thought with the first trailer of Trap, I thought it was gonna be obviously he's the killer, right? But then the second trailer revealed that, so that's no longer a mystery.
I know. What's going to be the twist? What could be the twist?
I mean,
is he being forced to do it?
It doesn't necessarily mean that he's the killer.
Yeah, you're right.
He looks pretty evil, and so
there's some wild fan theories I've heard that
The
connects.
daughter. Maybe he's protecting the daughter.
There's one that connects to one of his other.
Oh man.
movies.
Maybe the killer's the one he's got tied up.
I hope this is the old
yeah.
M. Night. I hope you guys are right. I hope you guys are right. So we're going to check out Trap as well as Stage Fright. What is that, Brian?
It's a movie.
Okay.
Is that the Michelle Soavi Stage Fright from '88, or is that the remake?
87.
87. Yeah. Okay, that's another good movie. You guys are gonna like it. I like that movie a lot.
All right. Cool. So Pedro, until the horror returns again.
Good night.
All right. Let me go see what Hallmark Christmas in July movie